town.
Growing up in Dayton, as a black kid, it was cool, you know, for what I thought, you know. We're conditioned to being okay with certain things. So, you know, I feel the way that I grew up was cool until I got older and I got in the world and I saw the ways that communities should run and should function and should have resources. And then I just kind of resented the system a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, why don't I have this at my crib? You know what I mean? When I got to college, it was so many other people that their village was well taken care of before they got there. You know what I mean? They planted the seed in them, showed them everything. You know, we didn't necessarily have all of that here. So it was tough, but, you know, we're resilient. We've always been resilient people, so.
I will tell you, so when I grew up, when I was in high school, where I lived, there were two high schools. And one was the quote-unquote white high school, one was the quote-unquote black high school. And there was a bridge that separated. And we happened to live on the white side of town. And there were 7 blacks in the school. And it was rough growing up. My nickname in high school was Spook. And instead of trying to fight the entire school, that just became my nickname. And that's just the way it was. And I used to work with the police department when I was in high school. And one day, I will never forget, we were working and trying to, you know, we would go try to buy liquor and stuff, and then they would go raid or arrest the people, give them tickets and everything. Well, they took us out to the police, the Fraternal Order Police Lodge, and I'm sitting there with all these police officers. I'm the only black sitting there, and there's a group of us, and this guy walks up to me, and I'll never forget, he does like this on the table, and says, "I'm surprised you haven't been killed yet." And that's when I found out that that was their way of saying he was part of the Klan, the Three Fingers, and the police officer that took us there as part of our celebration said, "You probably need to leave now." Everybody else got to stay, but I had to leave. And I was in high school.
Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
The earliest time I remember somebody looking different than me would have been 1972. I was in kindergarten. I had a little fella in my class. He was light bright, a white fella. And then we had another little fella that was actually mixed. He was a little darker than him. We wondered why, you know, they was different than us. We all brown skinned, we all brown people, and they white people, yellow. You know, it wasn't until later on in the 70s that, you know, you start hearing the term white people. But I grew up in an integrated grade school. About that time in the early 70s, schools were integrated. So there was white and black together going to school there. But that's my first memories of somebody looking different other than me.
My earliest memory of racism would be now. Definitely now. I didn't understand it as a kid. It was just kind of, you know, you different from me. But I've always been gentle. I've always been nice to everybody. Whether you light, bright, dark, colored, whatever you are, I've always loved everybody for who they are. I never seen shade. But now, as a mother and as someone who is getting into the career field I'm getting into, and as someone who is young and 20s, I see it every day, and it's crazy. So that's my most recent, and that's my most relevant will be now in this time, 2021, all of that.
Like, people don't understand how it is for black people. Like, by the grace of God, I have been able to graduate from college. I have a great job. I'm an engineer. I do have a nonprofit that's successful. But this was not easy. And it's still not easy. You know what I mean? We don't have funding set up for programs like this in West Dayton. In Dayton they do, in West Dayton they do not. And that's specific because they want to keep us oppressed. They don't want us to be conscious and understand, like, yo, like, if we do this, we can run this. If we do this, this can be ours. If we work together and try to do this, like, a little bit at a time, like, man, like, it's a war. We win certain battles. Like, we just gotta work together to make that happen, man.
What do you want?
I was born by the river.
I can't breathe shit.
Bro, get up, get in the car, man.
I will.
Get up, get in the car.
And just
I've been waiting the whole
I've
car.
been running.
Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car
Mama.
right.
I
It's been
can't.
a long,
Yeah, gave y'all an opportunity to get in, bro. I told you can't
long
win.
time
My knee.
coming, but
You
I
can't
know
win, man.
I'm through.
I know you
change
didn't have
gonna
to listen.
come. Oh, yes it will.
My stomach hurts. My neck hurts.
It's been
Everything
too
hurts.
hard living,
There's some water.
but I'm afraid to die.
I think whites have opportunities that a lot of other people do not, just because of the color of their skin. And because they're in various positions of leadership and power, a lot of times the people that are maybe better for the job or more qualified are overlooked because they're not part of the club. So I can give examples, even in the military. I can recall people would go out and golf, and back then, this was way before Tiger Woods and anything, you didn't see any black folks on the golf course. But deals and everything's made on the golf course, and deals were made in the officers club. And if you weren't part of the club, the good old boy club, you weren't invited. So yeah, they have a lot of advantages in that aspect.
I really advise people to invest in the communities that they're from. Like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a lot of people on here from Dayton or West Dayton or wherever they claim to be, but like, we really gotta come back here and bring them up. You can't be what you can't see. If they can't see us, they don't know that they can be this. You know what I mean? They don't know that they can be great. They don't know that they can be a creative that still has a 9-to-5, that's still able to be a dad. Like, you can do so many great things. You can do multiple great things at one time. As long as you got direction, you got inspiration, and you got drive. So we just got to make sure we're out here so these little black and brown kids, these little West Daytonians can grow up to be successful Daytonians, and Dayton can look like Oakwood. Dayton can look like Huber Heights, you know what I mean? And black people are the reason because of it. We don't always have to depend on someone else to bring us something. There's nobody coming to save us. We just got to put the work in ourselves and make it happen. So everybody from West Dayton, in Dayton, around Dayton, let's make this place a place that we want it to be. Like, we don't just have to do it when bad stuff happens. We can want to put the pride in our communities whenever. We can celebrate us whenever. And that's how we do it, by taking care of our community and taking care of our people.
Where John baptized 3. When I walked the devil in hell, says Johnny baptized me. I say, roll, Jordan, roll. Oh, now roll, Jordan, roll. My soul will rise ever, Lord, for the year old Jordan roll. Well, some say John was a Baptist. Some say John was a Jew. But I say John was a preacher, cause my Bible says so too.
How do I feel when a white person or Caucasian calls Black Lives Matter, a terrorist organization, I would call them ignorant because they don't know the meaning behind the name and or the movement. I feel like if they understood it a little better and they had more empathy, they wouldn't say it. But I've never seen in my 52 years living where anybody's gone out and just started killing Caucasian or white people for no reason. You got a man that's handcuffed, and you got 6 other men on him, and he's telling you he can't breathe, and you won't get up off of him and let him breathe. That's just flat out murder. Anybody that's in a fight knows 2-on-1 ain't fair. 6-on-1 with handcuffs on certainly ain't fair. So, to people that don't understand it, they say it's a movement. They say, you're a terrorist organization. There's no way. We've marched on Washington at least a half a dozen times with no incidents. They brought in the National Guard. They brought all these police in. There was never an incident. We've had a 1 million man march. We've had 2 Obama inaugurations. Millions of people up there. Never any problems. And Black Lives mattered then. Black Lives Matter now. We're not a terrorist organization. We're a group of people who are hurt and have been hurt over the years by trying to be oppressed by another group of people. That's just ignorance to call us a terrorist group.
As an African American woman, I feel like the police force has to do better. We have to do better. We are taken advantage of. We're slept on. And I feel like justice, we don't have the last say so. I feel like it's always up to the court. I feel like if you go to the court right now, just say you're guilty because they're going to prove that you're guilty even though you're innocent. That's how I feel about that.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own grave and go home to my Lord and be free. No more weeping, don't you know? No more weeping. No more weeping over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
When I get pulled over by the police, I'm terrified. I'm terrified for my life because I watch too many movies. You never know. You don't know if a person is what they going through at home. You don't know if they took a Molly. You don't know what these people doing. So I'm scared for my life. Not only do I have a 2-year-old king that I'm raising, that I'm scared of if I get pulled over, because I don't know what they're gonna do to me, and my kid has to be in the back seat by himself. So I'm very intimidated by it because I feel like they point out the perspective that they have authority over us. I'm colored. I'm a young lady, and I'm black, colored. So I'll be intimidated for my life, most definitely.
Bobby Seale is going through all types of physical and mental torture. But that's all right, because we said even before this happened, and we're going to say it after this, and after I'm locked up, and after everybody's locked up, that you can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right. You might run a liberator like Eric Cleave out the country, but you can't run liberation out the country. You might murder a freedom fighter like Bobby Hutton, but you can't murder freedom fighting. And if you do, you come up with answers that don't answer, explanations that don't explain. You come up with conclusions that don't conclude. And you come up with people that you thought should be acting like pigs, that's acting like people and moving on pigs. And that's what we've got to do. So we're going to see about Bobby, regardless of what these people think we should do. Because school is not important and work is not important. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism.
I was taught about racism by my parents. Growing up in Washington, D.C., my father was military, so I knew about differences in people. But I also wondered why some things were the way they were growing up, even on a military base. So I was explained about racism probably 5 years old, 6 years old. And then when I was in third grade, we moved to Hawaii. And they had this day called Kill Haole Day. And Haole means white in Hawaiian. And it was one of the safest days for minorities, for blacks, because the Hawaiians would come onto the base and beat up the white kids. And so that was reverse racism for me, and I learned about that, and then Roots came out, and that just changed my whole world. So
Day. When I wake up, it's a greater opportunity for me to improve. If the good Lord allows me and my child and my loved ones to wake up, we improving. We making the world a better place, day by day, moment by moment. So it really don't matter if you colored, if you white, if you Asian, Hispanic. And if you really want to go to a spiritual aspect, it shouldn't matter about shade. You live right. You live right. And once people see that, and when you approach people the right way, they will always look out for you. For example, I used to work at this facility or whatnot. This woman used to always mess with me. She messed with me because I'm young. I know I'm intelligent. I went to school. I know I'm intelligent. She would always pick on me because I was the youngest one in there, and I'm colored. I was the only black female in there. And they was wondering, how this black girl get this job? You know, how she do this, how she do that? That's none of their business. But I would always get picked on because of my color. And I'm just like, well, we can all win. It shouldn't be about that. It should not be about that. I want to see your daughter be better than me. I want, my nieces and nephews to be better than me. I have nieces and nephews who are mixed, who are white, who are Indian. I've never seen shade. I've never seen shade. And the good Lord, it says in the Bible that he is every shade. He is every shade. So who am I to be on this earth and be like, oh, because you white, I can't like you. Or because you white, you must think about this. Every white person didn't vote for Trump. Every white person isn't prejudiced. That's not true. So we as the people have to take back our power and really have to tap in of who we are and how our ancestors paved the way for us, because they did it. It's done. It's in the books. It's in the history, but it's up to us to really tap into it, to go through our papers, to ask our grandparents, to ask our grandfathers, what did you do? How did this work out? Because my mom used to tell me, ain't nothing new up under the sun. It's not. It's a cycle. It is a cycle. So I say, let's get it together. Let's work together. I work with white people. I love white people. I love black people, Asian, Hispanic. I give you a hug if you look purple. It don't matter to me. But we gotta stop accepting the label of militant. And we can't accuse everybody of being racist. So what, they gave us February. Live right. Live right. Every day is Black Lives Matter. We all matter. That's how I feel. Kings and queens.
I think with this being Black History Month, I don't think we put enough emphasis on and give enough accolades to all the things that we have as a people have invented, the ideas of ours that were taken from us by other people. Those that the inventions that we made are just incredible. The list is, well, there's at least over 100 items that I can think of that we as African Americans that are used in everyday society that we invented, that we not even appreciative of. You know, there's just simple things we just take for granted, but it was one of our forefathers who invented them. So I just think we should give them more honor and represent them more as far as what they've done and their accomplishments. You know, a lot of times we just don't know those people. You know, it was more than George Washington Carver. You know, even though he may have came up with 1,000 things for the peanut, but there was another 1,000 men who came up with some more ideas. So it's more than just, you know, a handful of people that we know. There's some that just quietly invented things and really probably didn't even want to be mentioned. They just invented them because they were needed. You know, again, like I said, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, we the people that do it. We the ones that can make it. If it needs to be made, we can make it. So, again, I love being a black man. I'm a proud black man. I'm proud of our race of people. You know, at times we've been talked about, ridiculed, beat down, killed, mutilated, hung, but we still here. We ain't going nowhere.